Hello, this is Annie from Reading Right Boxes, and today I wanted to explain a little bit about trick words, which is a term that I use in my boxes. In certain other tutoring programs and in school, you might also hear these words referred to as heart words. I use trick words because, and I also use the term trick letters. Trick words or heart words are irregular, high-frequency words. So let me break that down a little bit. High frequency just means that they're words that appear in the English language more often. So, for example, you might look up some lists of words. You might have heard of Dolch sight words or a Fry sight word list. Those words, the people that made them are Dolch and Fry. That's why they're called that. And they're simply just the words that appear in the English language the most. So a word like the is going to be very, very early on that list because the appears very often. The is also an example of a trick word or a heart word. So here's an example of a high frequency word that appears often, but it's not irregular. The word van. So because van is regular, all the letters correspond to the normal letter sounds, the frequent letter sounds that we hear. So v, a, n, van. That is according to the closed syllable rule, so the first rule that I teach, that is regular and phonetic. So the v for the consonant V, it makes its normal sound. The a makes the normal vowel sound according to that rule. So it's a short vowel for a. And n makes the regular sound for the consonant n. So that's actually a fairly common word. And there are more like that, which appear very often, but they're phonetic. They're regular. So another example of an irregular heart word or high frequency irregular sight word is the word who. So who is a digraph. It starts with a digraph, WH, but the normal sound, the digraph W and H, WH, more often makes the sound what. And you hear that in a lot of question words like what, which, when. And that the last sound in that, who, is regular, but it follows a rule that has not been taught yet. But that is another example of an irregular high-frequency sight word. So these words you're going to be teaching your student and practicing with them. And I'm going to I'll do another video on Elkonin boxes and on the routine. There's a whole routine for teaching heart words when you introduce them. So I will link to that, and I'm also going to do another video that's going to explain a tool called an Elkonin box and the procedure for heart words, for teaching heart words for the first time. I refer to them again as trick words because I like the fact that they have trick letters, which are tricky because they're not making the sound that you expect. And that's also a term. Trick words are a term or tricky words are also a term that's used in many tutoring. So another common heart word is said, which is what we will be using for the example when we do the heart words procedure for introducing the word. Some more examples are has and as, which have a common trick letter. So the trick letter is the letter that does not make the sound that you would expect. So in the word has, for example, the H is regular, huh. The a follows the closed syllable rule. It's a short a, so it says a. And the s sound is actually a z. It has the letter s, but it makes the sound z. And that's the same. That's one that's common. So you see that in my first several boxes. As, the S sound makes an irregular Z sound. So when you're teaching these, several researchers have addressed this, and I actually have a full blog post, which I'll link to it, that says exactly what all these researchers say. But Louisa Moats and David Kilpatrick have both agreed that you should be teaching them with attention to the sounds. So when you introduce a word, a trick word, you're going to be paying attention and pointing out the sounds first, and how they correspond to the letters. So you want to point out the trick letters and that they are irregular. So I will go through that whole procedure, but the important thing is that these students will map. There's a concept that I will do a separate video on, where they are mapping the sounds to the letters, and this is something that they store the words in their memory. So they map irregular words just the same way as they map regular words. But they do need to store in their memory that some of those letters are trick letters and are irregular. So I just want to finish this video up, I want to explain a little bit about what the history behind these irregular words. A lot of these words, some of the more of the most common words in English come from Old English, and a lot of them the pronunciation just changed. So for our example with who, it is likely, I haven't looked this up myself, but according to Louisa Moats, most of these words actually just changed. The pronunciation changed over time because people started pronouncing it differently. So the word who used to have a w sound in it. At this point, you would be telling your student that w is an irregular sound. The WH digraph normally says w, but in the case of who, it says, and it makes an H sound. But at some point in time, you can let them know, let them know the history. At some point in time, the who used to be pronounced woo because it had a W sound, most likely. I haven't looked that up, but most of these words used to be pronounced in a different way, and we just started pronouncing them in an irregular way. And at this point, the reason that we call them heart words sometimes, and they're referred to as heart words, is that you need to memorize by heart the sounds that are different, the irregular sounds. Kilpatrick suggests actually using the proper language as well. So you can call them trick letters, you can call them, draw a heart around the trick letter, but you can also say that's because it's an irregular sound. That letter makes an irregular sound and it doesn't follow the normal rules. So that is a little explanation of just about what trick words and trick letters are. I hope it was informational and helpful to you, and I will be linking to those. I will include links in my notes to those things that I mentioned, and adding more videos on the procedures for introducing heart words and for using an Elgin box. Thank you.